So we are sat in the new Tata Nexon EV Max. Of course, as the name suggests, this one has a bigger battery pack. It has got a longer driving range and there are a couple of new features as well. So our job today is to find out how close can we get to the indicated range. Well, this car has a claimed range of 400 plus kilometers. But in the real world, as we have experienced with the old car as well, it drops down significantly. But then Tata engineers have told us that this car packs a lot more new tech and they've upgraded virtually everything under the skin. So right now we are in the center of New Delhi. I'm going to head to Gurgaon right now. We are going to do some driving in traffic and then we'll head out on the highway. So let's find out how close can we get to the indicated range. So before starting out, we are in the parking lot of the hotel right now and we are going to leave in around 5 minutes. So right now I am at 98% of charge and it's showing me a range of 396 kilometers. So let's see how this thing progresses as we go along. So we are all set to go now and I've just cranked the car up. I don't know if technically that's the right term to say, but yeah, the car is on and we are ready to roll. So the first thing is the indicated range was 396 kilometers, but as soon as you turn the aircon on, it drops by 40 kilometers. So right now it's showing me 356 kilometers. But having said that, there are also a couple of new features and this includes 3 levels of region. So it can either be off or you have region 1, 2 and 3. So it depends on the extremity of the regeneration system and right now I've kept it at off. So as we go along, I'll switch between different levels. So let's see if it makes any change in the range or it increases it and how much of an effect does it have on the driving range. So let's get started. Now we are done with the first part of our journey and I'll come back to the range and how much battery we have consumed in a bit. But right now let's talk about my first impressions of the car. So as we have come to expect from the Nexon, the quality levels are really top notch. I mean, everything here feels well put together. You have usual bits around here, like the touchscreen is quite familiar and even the speedometer and the instrument cluster overall is quite familiar. Now I really like this dashboard design. It has this textured and rich look and at the same time these patterns around here, perforated leather and this thing, it's really very tastefully done. So it gives you a very premium, a very rich look and I think in that regard the Nexon EV, this Max version, has only taken the game forward. Now in here if you'll notice there is a new gear selector, so it is similar to what you get in Jaguars and Land Rovers. So it is a rotary dial and it works really well. 2 buttons you see next to it. The first one is for sport mode and of course the one below is for economy mode. In default mode it starts in city, which is a mix of both, and that's the mode we have been driving it in for the time being. Now the other 2 buttons you see here, it is for parking brake and it's electronic parking brake of course, and you've also got this auto hold function. Now what auto hold does, it holds the brake. Basically when you're in traffic you don't have to be on the brake pedal all the time. It holds the brake for you and as soon as you hit the throttle pedal, it gets going. So great feature, it's very convenient and I'll tell you why, because I spent nearly half an hour stuck in the jam. So a very convenient feature, works very well. The other 2 buttons that you see here, well these are new because this is for brake regeneration. So the button on the left, where of course from there you can decrease regeneration, and like I said there are 4 modes. It's off, level 1, level 2, level 3. So from the top button of course you can increase it, level 1, level 2, level 3. Now level 2 and level 3, they are more extreme of course, and they can only be used once the battery percentage drops below 85%. So for the time being I was just using level 1. On the whole, you also get this wireless charging around here. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are available, but they're not wireless, they're wired. And so overall, it has got everything, all the creature comforts that you'll need. It justifies its price tag, which is close to 20 lakh rupees. And it has also got a hill descent control. And then you have this thing to unlock the charging port, and it has also got an electric powered gate. So like I said, it is feature packed and it gets virtually everything that you'll need in a car of this segment. Now the steering wheel, it feels great to hold, and it's good quality material, leather wrapped, and you've got these buttons around here for everything. And the other thing is, it can be adjusted for rake but can't be adjusted for reach, so it can only go up and down. You can't adjust it for reach, like I said. So again, it is a miss, but then not really a big problem. Another great point is that it gets an auto dimming mirror inside, and you've also got a sunroof. In addition to that, the EV Max now brings front ventilated seats to the Nexon range, and it was a blessing in this scorching Delhi heat. There's also an air purifier on offer now. As for the charger, the EV Max gets a faster 7.2 kilowatt AC home charger that reduces the charging time to just 5 to 6 hours as compared to the regular Nexon EV's 10 to 12 hours with its 3.3 kilowatt charger. Using a 50 kilowatt DC public charger, the EV Max's battery pack can be juiced up to 80% in just 56 minutes. So let's get back to the main bit, which is the range of this car. Now I have some interesting findings right now. I've just done close to 41 kilometers and the range has dropped by a staggering 120 kilometers. Now that is a huge drop, but then like I said, I was stuck in a 20 minutes jam, and overall, as you can see, the battery charge, it's down to 75%. So we have lost close to 23%. So it is a big drop, but overall, I think in terms of driving, I wasn't doing anything special. I wasn't trying to maximize the range. I was driving how I normally drive a petrol car or a diesel car. So in the traffic, if I had to do a quick overtake, I was doing that. It has got decent power. It does 0 to 100 in 9 seconds, and it's quite instantaneous. So it's quite hard to hold yourself back from driving this car quick. So quite enjoyable in that sense, but I was driving pretty normally. The other thing is, of course, we had a bit of an open stretch in between, so I did close to 110 120 kilometers per hour, and it feels quite stable. The high speed stability is quite good, but the steering is not that direct and it feels a little too lifeless. The other great thing about this car is the ride comfort. The ride quality is really brilliant. In everyday driving conditions, you'll enjoy it. Even though it has a heavier battery pack, Tata engineers have retuned the suspension, and it still maintains that impeccable ride and handling balance of the Nexon. So in that regard, I think they have done a fantastic job. In everyday driving, like I was stuck in traffic, it's quite refined and it drove beautifully. We are at the shoot location, and now Sunil, my camera person who's behind the camera, you can't see him. He's going to shoot the car. He's going to take all the shots that you're going to see in a while. I expect the range to drop further down. So let's see. We'll probably shoot for around half an hour to 45 minutes, and the car will be idle. It won't be driven. But let's see how much range do we have after that, and then we'll get going again, and let's see how this whole thing pans out. So quick driving impressions of the Nexon EV Max. Well, this has a bigger battery pack. This gets a 40.5 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. So this is roughly 10 kilowatt hour more than the standard Nexon EV. And this one develops 141 bhp and 250 Newton meters of torque. So that's a gain of around 14 bhp and 5 Newton meters. Now in terms of performance, of course, it is a quick car. It does 0 to 100 in less than 9 seconds, and it has a top speed of 141 kilometers per hour. That's electronically limited, and it's better than the old Nexon because that was limited at 120 kilometers per hour. Now, because of the bigger battery pack and added equipment, this car weighs around 100 kilograms more than the standard Nexon EV, and that means Tata had to redo the whole suspension setup. The damping and spring rates, everything had to be changed. And I'm driving this car on some twisty roads right now, and it feels absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this has typical Nexon traits. The ride and handling balance is beautiful, and in fact, even the way it handles, it is a neutral handler, and it's quite progressive in the way. There's a linearity in the way this car handles. It doesn't feel like an EV, to be very honest. It doesn't feel its weight, and I think that's the best part about this car, because in everyday driving conditions, it's quite effortless to drive. You don't really feel the heft, and even when you're going fast around bends, it is an okay handler. Yes, when you corner hard, the tires start to screech, but unlike the regular Nexon EV, which used to blow up its front tires, out in smoke because of so much power going into the wheels, well, this one actually has a DSP, and that means this system actually, it reins in the power quite beautifully. It doesn't let it slip. So even when you gas it hard around corners, there is not a lot of drama, there is not a lot of wheel spin, and there is no smoke as a result, and it feels more planted and more confident for sure. Another thing that's worth mentioning is the way this car glides over bad roads. It is quite comfortable, the ride quality is really brilliant, and even when you're driving it fast around a set of bends, well, what I like about the steering is it of course feels a little disconnected when you're driving on straight roads or at low speeds, but it weighs up quite nicely once you pick up speeds. Once you're doing 60-70 kilometers per hour, it actually weighs up nicely and it feels a little more direct. But at dead center, of course, it feels a little too vague, but when you start going fast, it definitely feels better. In fact, the braking performance is also quite impressive because this thing gets disked on all four corners, so braking performance is really strong. And the great thing is that it doesn't have a very wooden feel like how we have come to experience in electric cars, the brake pedal, because of the regen and everything. It actually, Tata has managed to eliminate this because the brake pedal, it has a nice progressive feeling. Of course, the brakes aren't very sharp, but they are better than most electric cars, and I think this is one area where they have worked comprehensively. You can feel in terms of dynamics, this car is definitely a step up in comparison to the regular Nexon. It feels more conventional in that sense. It doesn't feel like something that's been engineered the last minute. So in that regard, I think a lot of work has gone into making this car a better handler and dynamically more sorted. Now, one thing that you'll enjoy while driving this car around a set of bends is the regen system, because this has got 4 levels in fact, including the one that's 0. So if you put it at its most aggressive setting, well, it works as engine braking. So whenever you enter a corner, you just lift off and it has that sort of effect that it feels like as if there is engine braking like you have in conventional cars. So it feels very nice, very intuitive, and it feels very natural actually, to be honest. So you go into a corner fast and you just lift off, and it has that engine braking sort of an effect, and which makes it quite enjoyable to drive. So I think slowly but steadily EVs are getting there, even in terms of driving pleasure. So we are back on the road, and we spent nearly 2 hours here shooting and doing everything. Some spirited driving was also involved. So I did close to 34 kilometers here because we reached here. It did close to 40 kilometers. Right now, the trip meter shows that we have done 74 kilometers. Now, like I said, it did involve some spirited driving, so the range dropped even more. But right now we are at 54%, and I have turned the regen to its most aggressive setting, and we have a range of around 147 kilometers. We are now driving in eco mode, so now I'm going to be more careful. So because we have only done 74 kilometers till now, the range has dropped very significantly. Of course, we got stuck in the jam and then this sort of driving and shoot everything, but even then I wasn't expecting it to drop by half. Now, like I said, we have 147 kilometers before it runs out of juice. But in terms of battery percentage, we have still got 54%. So now I'm going to be more careful. So let's see how many miles can we munch with the Nexon EV with a sedate driving style. So now we are done with our drive, and I've done a total of 136 kilometers today. In the last stint, I did 60 kilometers and used 20% of the battery. Now I still have 80 kilometers to go, and that's because I drove it in a very sedate manner like promised. And this is where the range is more indicative, because I just used 20% and the range didn't drop that much as per the onboard computers. It just dropped by around 8 kilometers. So if you drive sedately, if you are driving in eco mode, if you are using level 2 of regen, level 3 I thought was a little too aggressive, especially driving in traffic. So level 2 is kind of perfect, it's in between. So in that mode, that's when you're going to get the perfect economy, the perfect range that you expect. So of course today we just did 136 kilometers, and most of the time we are just shooting the car. We also drove it quite spiritedly, but there's still more than 30% battery left, and it's showing me that it can still go 80 kilometers. Now if you drive carefully, you're going to get that 80 kilometers, I'm 100% sure. And overall, if you calculate it, I think in the real world this car can give close to 270 or 300 kilometers. I think it can very well breach the 300 kilometers mark, and that is actually quite impressive because with this car, that's the promise. It has got a bigger battery pack, so you'll get more range. The problem with the regular Nexon EV was that it had a real world range of close to 210, 220 or maximum 250. Now 270 or 300 kilometers of real world range is what this car can deliver. I think it can, definitely it can. And if you want to go outside the city, if you want to go on short road trips, provided you take care of the charger in the outside city and you manage your trip well, I think this can do that. So overall, I think the Nexon EV Max, well, of course, it delivers on its promise, and this has got everything. It is kind of a perfect car if you're looking for an entry-level electric car. Well, this has got most of the bases covered. Of course, it's a little too expensive now. It will cost you 20 lakh ex-showroom. On-road price will be close to 23 lakh rupees or 24. So that is quite expensive for a sub 4 meter compact SUV. But then given the tech on offer and zero tailpipe emissions plus low running costs, I think this definitely makes a lot of sense. And Tata has definitely improved on the earlier platform. This, even though on the outside it looks like the old Nexon, but this has got a lot more substance. And I think, as usual, it will find a lot of takers, because this currently is the best selling electric car in India. And I think with the Nexon EV Max, those numbers are only going to grow.